In a world that never shuts up, silence has become lethal. They talk, they scroll, they react. But the man who watches without flinching, the man who waits in shadows, sharpening himself in exile, he becomes untouchable. Because when society teaches everyone to be loud, desperate, and seen, power shifts to the one who's invisible, the one who sees everything and says nothing. This is not charisma, not popularity. This is the deadliest advantage you can carry: control over your words, your face, your fire. Nietzsche knew this. He didn't shout his truth, he whispered it into the bones of those ready to burn their weakness. In the chaos of modern men, the one who thinks like a god and moves like a ghost wins. They don't put chains on your wrists anymore. They just put noise in your ears. They feed it through your phone, your feed, your timeline. Opinions dressed as truth, outrage disguised as purpose, entertainment masquerading as meaning. Every scroll is a leash. Every notification, a tiny bell around your neck, letting the world know you're owned. They've engineered it perfectly. Keep you flooded, overstimulated, on edge. Let the world pour in until your own voice is a whisper drowned in a storm. You think you're informed, but you're infected, drunk off noise, starved of stillness. Men today are taught to perform, not to observe, to chase applause, not power, to react instead of rule. And the worst part, you think it's normal. You think anxiety is part of ambition. That dopamine is the same as discipline. That talking is the same as thinking. That movement means progress. But here's the truth. Every time you react, you forfeit the throne. Every time you chase validation, you betray yourself. Every time you speak without purpose, you lose a piece of your edge. A silent man is dangerous because he can't be read. He can't be baited. He watches, waits, moves, with intent. But silence today is seen as weakness. That's how far the game has twisted. Men fear being misunderstood more than they fear being mediocre. You want to know why you feel lost, why your thoughts feel heavy, and your goals feel far. It's because your mind is not your own. You've let too many voices in, too many opinions, too many algorithms shaping who you think you should be. You've allowed the volume to define your values. But understand this, noise is not just distraction, it is enslavement. A man who cannot sit with his own thoughts is already conquered. A man who must constantly be seen has already vanished. In the wild, it's the loudest animal that gets hunted first. The one who can't control his movements, can't sit in the shadows, can't wait for the perfect moment to strike. Stillness is not laziness, it's lethal. A warrior doesn't flinch at silence. He builds in it, studies in it, sharpens his edge in it. Because when everyone is screaming, the man who whispers becomes godlike. He becomes the anomaly, the mystery, the ghost that moves through rooms with weight and gravity, without needing to raise his voice. But this world won't reward that easily. You'll be tested, provoked, pulled. They'll throw images at you, women at you, outrage at you. They'll bait you with drama, drown you in trends, tempt you to become louder. Don't fall for it. The wolf doesn't howl with the pack just to prove he's there. He watches, he calculates. He knows that power isn't proved in noise. It's revealed in control. Silence isn't emptiness. It's containment. Containment of rage, of hunger, of vision. Let them talk. Let them tweet. Let them argue over things they don't understand. You are not here to be consumed by noise. You are here to rise above it. Detach, observe. Disengage from the circus. Reclaim your signal from their static. Because the mind that is silent is the only one that can hear. Hear the next move. Hear the truth beneath the lies. Hear who you actually are. When the world stops talking at you. There's a reason the old masters trained in solitude. A reason monks go into silence. A reason warriors meditate before war. Not to escape reality, but to dominate it. To see clearly what others can't. To strike surgically where others flail blindly. To walk into chaos with stillness that makes the room go quiet. That's the man the world no longer understands. And that's exactly who you must become. Because the man who masters his silence is the only one who still owns himself. A lion doesn't announce its hunt. A blade doesn't shimmer in the sun before it strikes. Power that's real doesn't advertise. You've been lied to, taught that to matter, you must be seen. That relevance is a currency, that the loudest man wins. But ask yourself, who's still standing when the shouting stops? The truth is quiet, always has been, and those who understand this, they disappear on purpose. Not because they're weak, but because they're waiting. Strategic invisibility is not absence, it's positioning. It's refusing to play on the board until you've become the game. The sovereign man, the one who answers to no crowd, no trend, no algorithm. He watches from the shadows, from silence, from distance. He's not missing, he's not passive, he's just patient. While the rest rush into visibility, desperate for attention, he sharpens, observes, plans, builds leverage quietly. Then, when the world's back is turned, he moves, swift, clean, precise, because nothing cuts deeper than the blade you never saw coming. A hidden man is not a forgotten man. He is a stored storm, and the thing about storms, they don't negotiate. They arrive. Men today are addicted to visibility. Validation is their oxygen. If no one's watching, they stop breathing. They crumble. But power doesn't need witnesses. Greatness doesn't need applause. Mastery does not need a camera. You don't grow in the spotlight. You grow in the dark. In the repetitions no one sees. In the discipline no one claps for. In the silence that would make weaker men go insane. You want to be dangerous. Disappear. Not physically. Psychologically. Become unreadable. Unpredictable. Emotionally self-contained. A man who reveals nothing. Who gives nothing away. When you disengage, you confuse them. When you stay silent, you haunt them. When you walk away, you reframe the battlefield. The enemy can't strike what it can't see, can't manipulate what it can't access, can't control what it doesn't understand. The sovereign man leaves no openings. He's not reactive, because he's not emotionally entangled. He's not loud, because he doesn't need to prove himself. He's not desperate, because he doesn't need the world to tell him who he is. He's already chosen. That's what makes him terrifying. While others build their identity in public, he builds it in solitude. While others seek connection, he builds control. Not over others, but over himself. He studies, sharpens, stacks discipline like weapons, and when the time comes, he moves with such brutal efficiency that they wonder if he was ever really gone, or just waiting. In chess, the queen is loud, flashy, dominant, but the pawn that survives becomes more powerful than anything on the board. Quiet, slow, underestimated, until it isn't. The hidden blade cuts deeper, not because it's sharper, but because it doesn't give you time to brace. So stop chasing attention. Let them forget you. Let them mock your silence. Let them think you've quit. Let them think whatever they want. You're not here to be seen. You're here to strike. And when you do, it will be too late for them to understand what's already begun. Because by the time they notice you again, you'll already be holding the crown. They tell you to be open, vulnerable, transparent, to share your wounds, broadcast your heart, confess your fears to strangers wearing masks. They sell you the lie that exposure is strength, that to feel deeply is to lead boldly. But a bleeding man in a battlefield isn't brave. He's dead weight. Modern men spill themselves for likes. They cry to strangers for digital hugs. They let the world into places it hasn't earned. And every time they do, they lose ground. Dignity, power, not because emotion is weakness, but because they give it away like it's worthless. You don't share your weapon with the enemy. You don't expose your strategy to the crowd. You don't hand over your soul and expect to remain sovereign. Emotion is sacred. It is not to be broadcast. It is to be wielded. That's the difference. The strong don't suppress what they feel. They discipline it. They don't cry on command or rage on impulse. They hold their fire. They study the battlefield. And they choose with cold precision when and where to unleash. You think that's robotic. No, it's royal. A king doesn't collapse every time the world throws chaos at him. He doesn't beg to be understood. He doesn't explain his silence. Because real power doesn't flinch. It watches, waits, decides. There's a reason storms don't announce themselves with whining. They come with pressure, stillness, then lightning. The men who rule this world truly rule, are emotionally opaque, unreadable, stable, untouchable. And that's not because they don't feel. It's because they respect what they feel, enough to protect it from the hands of people who haven't earned the right to see it. You think strength is being real. Be real with yourself first. Face your chaos alone before you hand it to someone who'll weaponize it. Because the minute they can read you, they can bait you, trigger you, collapse you. But if they look into your eyes and find silence, if they shout, accuse, seduce, and your soul doesn't flinch, you become unbreakable. It's not about being cold. It's about being contained. The fire's still there, but it's in your grip, not theirs. Men who master themselves don't need to scream to be heard. They don't need to cry to be felt. They don't need to be understood to be at peace. They are their own anchor. And when the world spins, they don't. They stay. Because control is not about never feeling. It's about never leaking. Emotional men are predictable, and predictable men are prey. But emotional opacity, that's the final layer of armor. The one that keeps your heart from being used against you. The one that confuses enemies, calms allies, and commands respect without begging for it. You want to rise. Learn to respond without revealing. To move without explaining. To feel without performing. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them misread your silence. Let them never quite know where they stand with you. That's not manipulation. That's mystique. That's the echo of kings, of warriors, of tacticians who understood the cost of transparency in a world addicted to tearing men open. You don't owe your soul to anyone who hasn't bled to protect it. So hold your ground. Hold your fire. Hold your edge. Because control is not coldness. It's knowing the world doesn't deserve your soul. They'll tell you to speak up. Raise your voice. Make yourself known. But the ones who move the world don't always make noise. They see, while the herd runs its mouth. A rare kind of man remains still, eyes open, mouth closed, pulse calm, not because he lacks something to say, but because he's learned the truth hides in silence. In a world addicted to expression, observation is rebellion, and rebellion, when quiet, is lethal. You see, words lie, but tension doesn't, posture doesn't, eyes don't. People leak, all the time, through fidgets, through breath, through micro pauses, between sentences they wish they hadn't started. They bleed themselves without knowing, and most never notice, because they're too busy trying to be seen. But not you. You've started to understand power is not being the loudest voice in the room. Power is reading every voice without revealing your own frequency. You don't need to guess someone's intent when you've learned to spot their patterns. The delay in their answer, the crack in their laugh, the tremor when you hold eye contact 1 second too long. To most it's nothing. To you it's a confession. Observation is a blade, polished in silence, unsheathed without warning. When you learn to listen without needing to speak, when you can track someone's emotions without being pulled into their current, you stop reacting. You stop bleeding energy. You become a mirror that reflects what others can't hide from themselves. A presence that doesn't entertain, doesn't validate, doesn't perform, just watches. And nothing is more disarming than being watched by a man who gives nothing away. Do you know why people fear silence? Because it leaves them alone with their truth. And a man who can sit in silence without needing noise, without filling the air with words or jokes or explanations, that man is a threat. Not a threat in the way boys try to act tough. A real threat, because he's present, unshaken, tuned into frequencies others never hear. He doesn't argue. He doesn't plead. He notices, and noticing changes everything. You start seeing where people are bluffing, where they crave approval, where they're controlled by things they won't admit. Their armor, their arrogance, their confidence. It all becomes transparent, because a mask always cracks under enough observation. Most just never hold still long enough to see it happen. But you will, because you're learning to see beneath the surface, to stay still while others fidget, to speak only when precision matters more than presence. When you stop needing to be heard, you begin to hear everything. And what you'll realize is this: most people tell on themselves, all the time. They tell you who they are, what they fear, what they want too badly. You just haven't been listening hard enough. You've been taught to perform. Now it's time to witness. Try silence for 3 days. Not just in speech, but in consumption. No music, no podcasts, no mindless scrolling, no input. Just watch. The world, people, yourself. At first the silence will feel like starvation, but then it will reveal everything. Their tells, their ticks, their truths, and yours. Because the first thing observation gives you is dominion over yourself. You stop reacting. You start calculating. You learn when to step, when to hold, and when to let the silence do the killing for you. To see clearly is more violent than to speak loudly. And once you can see like this, with sharp eyes and a still presence, you'll never chase power again. You'll become it. The world claps for the loud, the chest beaters, the men who walk into a room like they're auditioning for a part they wrote in their heads. But what if I told you, the ones who really hold power never audition? They don't perform. They don't posture. They just exist. And the room rearranges itself. This age has confused confidence with noise, with followers, with bark, with perfectly curated bravado. But the truth, the deeper you go, the quieter it gets. Nietzsche never praised confidence. He praised weight, gravitas, stillness that feels like a sword is resting in the air, unsheathed, even when no words are spoken. Not charm, not charisma, but presence, like a mountain watching a storm. Ask yourself, have you ever stood beside a man whose silence was louder than someone else's scream? The kind who says nothing, and yet, you feel him. That's not confidence. That's control. Modern confidence is a performance. It needs applause to breathe. It's insecure at its core, always seeking proof, always chasing validation. But the man who truly knows, he doesn't chase. He doesn't convince. He doesn't explain. He simply is. Because there's a difference between appearing powerful and being untouchable. Real confidence isn't something you show. It's something you withhold. You'll find it in the man who doesn't flinch when he's insulted, who doesn't raise his voice when challenged, who doesn't need to speak just to remind you he's still in the room. Because his identity isn't at stake. Yours is. Why? Because when you're truly grounded, when your roots are deep, you stop shaking when the wind blows. You don't posture like a wolf. You move like the forest around him. Calm, ancient, immovable. The crowd calls this arrogance, but it isn't. It's self-respect, stripped of performance. It's the death of needing to be seen. Most men walk into the world hungry to be approved, to be liked, to be admired. But the man who walks in full, he devours the room, without opening his mouth. Because real strength is what's left when you take away the image, the costume, the applause, the ego. It's what remains when no one is watching, and you still stand tall. The man who walks silently through the fire, without broadcasting his scars, is more terrifying than the one who screams through the smoke for sympathy. Because the silent one, he chose the fire. That's confidence. Not the smile, not the sales pitch, not the flex, but the man who is willing to be doubted, misunderstood, and even mocked, because he no longer depends on the world to validate who he is. He is already forged, and you feel it. When he enters, you sit up straighter. When he speaks, the room tilts. And when he looks at you, you remember everything you're not. That is the kind of man the world can't fake, can't replicate, can't cancel. Because he's not trying to be anything. He just is. So if you're still trying to prove yourself, still trying to be liked, still trying to be heard, maybe it's time to stop speaking and start becoming. Confidence isn't loud. It's when your silence makes others nervous. Strength is easy to see. It shouts. It shows. It demands recognition. But power, real power, it hides. It plots. It waits. We live in a world that worships strength. Physical, emotional, vocal. They tell you to fight back. Punch first. Raise your voice. Take up space. But the cold king knows better. He doesn't waste motion. Doesn't throw punches in a room full of mirrors. He doesn't fight for dominance. He orchestrates it. Because domination is not about muscle. It's about moves. While other men react, he prepares. He doesn't chase battles. He builds traps. He sets pieces on the board long before anyone realizes a game has begun. And when the time comes to strike, he doesn't lift a sword. He just removes your options. That's the thing about cold kings. They don't conquer with force. They conquer with absence of choice. They won't see you coming. Not because you're hiding, but because you've stopped needing to be seen. You've outgrown performance, outgrown the chase, outgrown the need to declare your presence like a boy pounding his chest, hoping the world claps back. You've become the Ghost King. Not a myth, not a mystery, a force. One that moves without noise, that shifts the room without speaking, that changes outcomes by existing outside the board entirely. While they play checkers in public, you're rerouting the entire game, privately, precisely, without a trace. That's power. Not the kind that begs for attention. Not the kind that flashes on stage or shouts into microphones. But the kind that walks into a room and makes people stand straighter, without knowing why. The apex predator of this era doesn't roar. He radiates. He doesn't chase. He chooses. He's polite, calm, measured, but completely unreachable. No bait sticks, no trigger lands, no read is clean. You see, most men become loud when they gain a little status. They grow drunk on recognition, addicted to the spotlight, dependent on the echo. But not you. You didn't build to be adored. You built to rule. And rulers don't beg to be understood. They vanish, and when they return, they've already won. You've become fluent in silence, comfortable in your own mystery. You don't announce your goals. You don't show your cards. You carry weight without a single unnecessary word. Because now you understand something few ever will. Visibility is vulnerability. The more people know you, the more they think they can touch you, reach you, influence you. But when they can't place you, they fear you, respect you, feel you. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are dictating it, without needing control, without needing noise. You operate like a ghost through walls, moving behind timelines, under trends, above drama. The Ghost King isn't a loner. He's selective. He doesn't isolate from weakness. He simply doesn't invest in it. He's present, but not exposed. Friendly, but not available. Heard, but not accessible. They think they know you, but they don't even know your first move. And that's what makes you lethal. Because ghosts aren't bound by the rules of men who need approval. They aren't held by the limitations of men who need to be understood. Ghosts haunt the minds of the insecure, and inspire the few who've caught glimpses of what's possible beyond the herd. You used to chase strength. Now you carry it. Quietly, relentlessly. It's in your gaze, your stillness, your withdrawal from things that used to seduce you. It's in your detachment from praise, your disinterest in recognition, your complete refusal to negotiate with mediocrity. The Ghost King moves like a shadow with a blade, felt before he's seen, gone before he's grasped. You've stopped arguing. You've stopped proving. You've stopped asking, because you've become the kind of man who doesn't knock on doors. He removes them, so let them talk, let them guess, let them drown in their own noise. You are not one of them anymore. You are the storm that doesn't announce itself. You are the silence that unsettles armies. And if they ever ask where you went, tell them you never left. You simply rose too far above their frequency to be noticed. Comment lethal if silence made you unstoppable.